Welcome to another 10 questions with Jamie. Today we are sitting with TeKapua Rewi. TeKapua, welcome to the segment. Really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So TK is often what you go by. Us Canadians often refer you to TK, correct?
Yeah. And that's been my nickname pretty much most of my life as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, TK, you and I have a little bit of personal history. We've actually met on the rugby pitch years and years ago. Started off a friendship, and then we've done actually multiple alpha groups together, and we've also done men's Bible study groups together. And just to let the viewers know that you and I have a long history together.
Yeah, and it's been great. It's always nice, when you get to meet people out on the rugby field, and then you have similar interests. And yeah, it's been great just to kind of get to understand and unpack our journeys together.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
thanks
for sure. It's been interesting for sure. So TK, essentially what we do here, you may know, and many of our viewers know, some may not, we sit down with an individual, has some ties to Asbury. And our goal here is, by the end of the question period, is to get to know the individual a little bit better. So that being said, TK, do you mind telling the group where you were born?
Yeah, so I was born in a place called Masterton, which is in New Zealand. My folks moved over to Australia when I was like knee height to a grasshopper. So at the age of 2, moved over to Australia. And I grew up in both countries as a little kid, both Australia and New Zealand, until maybe like around about my teenage years. That's when I stayed in Australia and lived there pretty much ever since.
Nice. Now, how long, excuse me, how long have you been in Canada for?
So I arrived here September 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
A decade.
Yeah.
Now, if you could tell the group, the winters compared to Canadian winters to New Zealand and Australia winters, a little bit of a difference?
Only a little bit. So in Australia, sometimes at winter time, you can be at the beach and it'll be like 30 degrees.
Oh, just a shame.
Yeah, that's my kind of winter.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. And it's great to have somebody out of all the individuals that I've had here. Everyone's been Canadian, born and raised in some area in Canada. So it's nice to be able to sit down with someone that's, born and raised outside of the country. So yeah, that's great. Yeah. Now, TK, would you happen to have a favorite type of music?
Yeah, so I grew up. My parents used to listen to Motown music. So I grew up with like funky music, hip hop, R&B, and probably old school rock as well.
Yeah.
And so so anything that kind of gets me moving and bouncing around, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I hear you there. I same thing. Growing up, I had and it's still to this day, a bit of a mixed bag. That I really enjoyed, and really anything that's upbeat or lifting really gets you going. I really gravitate to the music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So actually, TK, you had mentioned obviously you were born in New Zealand and spent some time in Australia. This next question: would you happen to have a favorite childhood memory that would be back from Australia or New Zealand area?
Yeah. So I think must have been about 4 years old, and I'm in the back of a pickup truck. And I've got we've just been at the beach, and I've got like these crayfish, but they're the size of like lobsters, and I'm holding them in my hands, and just loving life. I had hair back then, so the wind was blowing through my hair, but that was probably one of the memories that I really enjoyed, just being around my family at that time, but it's just so free, and around the beach, around food. Can't complain around that,
I hear you, bro. I hear you. That's good. It sounds, as you're explaining it, it sounds like it was a great time, and really a day at the beach. How bad could that be? really.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So yeah, for sure. Now, TK, we're speaking about books or movies, anything of that nature. Between fiction and nonfiction, would you happen to have a preference in what you prefer?
Yeah, I like the nonfiction. I like a good story, and something that I can relate to. That's happened as well. And yeah, it either kind of moves me in a certain direction that either helps unpack a little bit of my journey, and or encourages me at the same time. So
yeah. I can relate. I'm as many people. I probably said this every time someone's answered that question. That I'm a bit of a history buff, and I really like hearing about not only people's journey but human nature, our journey, right? And so true events that have unfolded globally, right? And I've always had an interest towards that kind of stuff. So definitely get why. Yeah. Awesome. TK, going back again as a small child, was there anything that you wanted to be, when you were, growing up as a young child, could have been doctor, a lawyer, plumber, whatever. Was there anything that you had in mind that you wanted to do?
Yeah, see, because I grew up around rugby or rugby league. Just kind of like here, as a kid in Canada, it's about get your skates on and go play hockey or football. So back home was all about rugby, and so as a little kid, that's what I wanted to do. Like dad played rugby, dad coached rugby, and that was just something that I thought to myself, that's exactly what I want to be. I want to be a rugby player. I want to play for the All Blacks, which is the national New Zealand team.
Right.
But yeah, so as a little kid, it was all about sports, and having fun.
Yeah.
Actually, nothing's changed.
It's just we're getting older, and the bones don't repair quite as easy.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I hear you there. And very similar to Canadians, ice hockey, men and women or boys and girls, they're always involved in it, or most of them are always get involved in it if they like sports at all. They've at least tried it. So it sounds like rugby is very similar to that as the national sport. So good. Now, if you could do anything for a day, TK, what would it be? Money and time, not a factor in this answer.
Yeah, like I said before, the beach is my happy place,
Right.
To get in there, whether you're surfing the waves or going diving for food, or fishing off the rocks. Just, and it doesn't really matter what beach, but just out in the sunshine, and I miss the smell of of the seawater, the ocean. I really miss that, and then just to have fish and chips, after you've played and swam, have a good feed of fish and chips, and then that's it, you're done. But I love the beach.
Like I had mentioned earlier in our dialogue together, you can't go wrong with a day at the beach, really, and then obviously the food and the time spent with family, and not a care in the world, right? And so if you could spend 24 hours doing that, I totally understand why that would be a choice of yours. So it's great way to spend your time, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
TK, now we're going to transition from some of the more personal questions to the biblical side of the questions. And the first question is, what is your favorite Bible verse?
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite. There's been a few verses that really have really touched my heart and helped me kind of just change in my way of thinking and my understanding. But the one that comes to mind, so this verse, as I just started to be I gave my heart to Christ, and in that process I ended up having to the verse that came to mind was, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And that kind of helped my journey. And so the whole thing of seeking his kingdom and his righteousness was that I needed to be focused on him. you know, and the things and the godly things in his kingdom. So that verse has really my foundation in a sense,
right?
You know, as a first believer, and that's kind of stuck with me for like since today.
Great, great message. Is very encouraging. A great directive, right? As you mentioned, and there's been so many people that have come on here, and obviously there's personal touch to their Bible verses, and everyone is excellent. But this one here you had mentioned too. It's right at the beginning of your journey, and it's remained on your heart all the way through, which is nice to hear. Excellent. All right. Well, this one is one of my favorite questions with the group. What or who had the biggest impact on you in your Christian journey?
Yeah, so Dad became he started his own journey, and he became a follower, a Christian, and so he was the kind of starting point to Christianity, right? But it took me a little bit longer to kind of accept and understand who Christ was or is,
right?
And so Dad at first, and then it kind of led me to a Christian ministry where I didn't really know much about the place. But I knew I had to be there, and I ended up living there and working there for like 4 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so essentially your dad really was the foundation for your first steps towards Christianity.
Yeah, 100%.
Good.
No, he really led by example, to bring change into his life, but not just for his life, but for the rest of the family, And he's still doing it today.
Obviously there's no wrong time to make that decision, to step towards Christianity. But it is nice to see or hear later in life some of these people that have, lived a certain way and then had turned in the direction of their lives. And that's great to hear that. And then the wake of that decision, you had mentioned your family, right? And all kind of what a great example that was. And, what a great story, not only to hear, but to share with the group. Wonderful in the groundwork. And then that hopefully continues on through the generations, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, TK. It's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, here's another one that I often enjoy asking the group too. So other than Jesus from the Bible, who would you want to spend a day with, TK?
Yeah, this is a good question, and I really thought about this, and so in my own life, I tend to look at, the root causes of things to kind of unpack that, and hopefully grow and get healing in that area. And so the character that came to mind that I wanted to spend time with. So there was, my understanding, there were three angels. There was Gabriel, Michael, and Lucifer.
Right.
I would like to spend that day just before he made that decision to turn away from God, in a sense.
Right.
I'd love to spend that time with him, and just to hear, just to understand the whole process in a way of him wanting the glory,
Yep. So Lucifer, before he, was obviously tossed out.
And Satan.
Yeah. And, that's a very great answer if you think about it. And because, prior to the fall, what was life like? And not only that is what was going through his mind? What was his process to start everything that has now caused, everything right from there? Well, we all know, right? And so to just, I'm trying to, on the fly, imagine that 24-hour period, right? And the questions that you would have, and the day, what it would look like in terms of, walking with that, at the time, right, prior to the fall. So, yeah, that would be very interesting. It would be.
Yeah, because I kind of think of it, and it's almost like there was no sin at that time,
right.
like Adam and Eve weren't around just yet. There was just the angels and God, and of my understanding anyway.
Yeah.
And so just to spend that time with him, and maybe just seeing his character change, or hearing his heart behind the whole situation,
Yeah.
And I think that could give us maybe, a bit of a glimpse on God's people, just to have that understanding on, like what we've done, who we are, where we've come from,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you had mentioned prior to answering the question that that's something that you like to do, is the root causes of things, which is excellent. I mean, and that certainly would be the root of, time, of us, and everything, right? In terms of where we picked up from, right? And so, yeah, that's very interesting. Appreciate you sharing that. Definitely unique, but it's I can totally get like now that we've talked about it and everything. Yeah, it's that'd be quite the 24-hour period, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks again for sharing that with us, TK. And now, before we say goodbye to our viewers here today, we have one more question, and that is, what encouraging message would you like to pass on to the next generation?
Yeah, I think be gracious to yourself, learn to forgive yourself and love yourself. And I think that's just an outflowing of being able to do that for others. If you can love yourself, forgive yourself, and then you tend to have a softer heart for others.
Yeah. That's good. Great message, encouraging, uplifting. Certainly something that is a wonderful message to pass on to each generation, as they come up. So yeah, excellent. Well, TK, it's been a blast. I appreciate you spending some time with me here today. And it's great that we get to share a little bit about you and your journey. And it's nice to be able to hopefully the viewers get to know you a little bit better, TK.
Yeah.
And to
thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And we'll keep in touch for anything in the future. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
TK, again, thank you for joining us. Viewers out there, thank you for joining us here and taking it in again. We will say goodbye today, but we wish you all the very best. God bless and stay safe out there, folks.